Has expired. Senator Humphries.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. Well, if I understand the argument by Senator Cameron correctly, he's saying that the questions being asked by the Coalition about the funding of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the same questions which of course are being asked by families and carers of people with disabilities, the length and breadth of Australia, can't be asked because the Coalition didn't do enough for disabilities when it was in government, and the Coalition— well, that's not true, Senator Cameron. That's not true. You weren't here. You don't know, Senator Cameron, and it's too negative these days, so you can't raise these issues. Well, I want to tell Senator Cameron that the place of members and senators in the national parliament is to raise issues of national concern, and I know, because I've seen these concerns expressed, I've heard these people raise these concerns, it is absolutely appropriate to ask a question in the Australian Senate about when the government intends to put flesh on the bare bones of a promise to deliver a national disability insurance scheme, when they have made promises, when they've put a small amount of money forward, much less than the Productivity Commission, which in fact, despite what Senator Cameron says, is the real originator of this plan, not the government, the Productivity Commission. It's asked that a certain amount of money be put forward. It said there ought to be $3.9 billion on the table, and the government— well, OK, Senator McEwen, you deserve credit for commissioning it, but having asked the question, the Productivity Commission has put forward the plan, not the government per se. The Commission has done it. And when it did so, all of the parties in the federal parliament said, yes, we recognise a good idea, we put our hands up to that happening. We all did. It's not Labor's NDIS. It's not Labor's NDIS. It is an NDIS which ought to be welcomed and accepted as a national plan, as part of a national agenda. And it's unfortunate in the extreme that the Labor Party's chosen to say, well, we're the ones committed to this, we're going to make it happen, when in fact the evidence isn't there. I said that this was not just the concern of the Coalition, it's the concern of others as well. I note the ABC reported only a short while ago Kate Larson from Arts Access Australia raised concerns about the fact that in the MyEFO of a week or so ago there was nothing to clarify how this is going to be paid for. And she said if it is not to be included in those projections, it is a huge blow. Not our words, the words of those advocating for people with disabilities. Disability advocate Stella Young was reported on the ABC as saying there's a little bit of a feeling that people with disabilities in our families are again sort of being used as a political football. And rolling it out a year early, great, but rolling it out a year earlier without a solid plan for how we are going to fund is not OK. It's too precarious and it's too scary. This is what the people in the community dealing with these issues, caring for people with disabilities, advocating for them are saying. And that's the issue which the Coalition is putting on the table today. If the government's serious about this, it ought to be prepared to say how it's going to fund it. It's introducing legislation to bring forward this national scheme, but as yet the details aren't there. And with great respect to the government, it has form on this practice in the past of making big announcements and not carrying them through financially. I'm thinking of the dental scheme announced by the Labor government in the early 90s. Fantastic scheme to pay for dentistry. It ran for 3 years and then ran out of money. No money in the forward estimates, the money went. And the other is the National Museum of Australia, which it announced with a great fanfare, said was a fantastic idea in the very beginning of the Hawke-Keating government, and when it left office in 1996, nothing had happened. That's the kind of form we're facing on these matters. But unfortunately, by comparison with those other programs, this affects the daily lives of Australians living with disabilities. And they are anxious about whether getting involved in these trials around the country, particularly in the ACT where it's most extensive. They're concerned about whether they'll be stranded when the money doesn't appear at the end of the trials. They're fair concerns. They're fair concerns, and if the minister finds it beneath their dignity to answer questions about those matters and tell people out there wanting to know what their future will be. That's a very sorry
Thank
day
you,
for the
Senator
Parliament.
Humphries. Your time has expired.